Change your mind, change your money, change your life. I am Coach Rob Lee Simmons, the host of this podcast, and let me be your tour guide to greatness. If I was doing any better, I would be you. Welcome to the Greatness Podcast. I am your host, Coach Rob, and I am here with Mosheda Pettus. She is the assistant principal at Lee Southeast High School. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
All is well on my end, man. I am enjoying life, just living every day, trying to be great. So I want to let the viewers know that I always bring on people that I believe that has a level of greatness, and I kind of want to and people who know you, they know you are 110% legit. But for the viewers and listeners who don't know you, I want them to know that, first of all, not only just the assistant principal, but you're also a ball coach. You've been coached by some of the greatest coaches of our time. You've played college ball. So you have this level of experience that, it's like top 10, top 15%, if you play sports and made it to the next level type of experiences. And I want you to kind of share, where you are, how it started, and then, where you're going type of deal. So that's the conversation that I want to kind of bring up with you today. So again, thank you. And I really appreciate you jumping on with me. I was itching for this one. So as soon as somebody said, hey, you should just ask Mosheda. And I'm like, oh, I hope she's free. Cause you like certified grinder, always getting it in. But I really appreciate you jumping on.
Thank you for having me. I know we're gonna have a good time.
Oh yeah, already. Cause every time we link is wild, right?
Yeah.
Hey, so first I want to talk about I just listened to one of the calls from Coach Burke, and I know you are one of his one of the great seeds that he has planted. And he always has like a lot of really good nuggets, but playing under him, like how did that work for you? Like how did it start? And then tell me about the experience.
So when I got to Riverdale in 2000, he moved me up to varsity, me and like two other girls. And so we're just chilling on varsity. We know nothing about Coach Burt. Because at the time, Coach Burt is literally like 23 years old, coaching
Yeah.
kids who are like 14 to 18 years old. What I will say is the experience initially was shocking,
Yeah,
to
it's
say
like
the least.
boot camp.
Man, yes. But on the back end of it, like looking back, it's not as shocking as what we were because we were kids.
Right.
Um, Coach Burt just had a high expectation for everybody, treated everybody the same things that he preaches to the companies that he coaches right now, we were his guinea pigs. So all
Right.
of those things that he goes out and talks to people about, we actually live through. So he needs to be paying us, Coach Burt. You need to be paying us for um, but what it really did was for those of us who wanted to play college ball, we were already prepared once we stepped on campus. There wasn't a learning curve in terms of like what it took to be great, what the work ethic looked like, what the discipline looked like. I can honestly say most of us who went to college played all 4 years and graduated. When, if you look at college retention for players, I mean, just look at the
Right.
portal, it'll tell you everything you need to know. The biggest thing I've learned from Coach Bird is just like how to function in the real world when you are a kid who comes from like a have not background where you're not necessarily taught those things.
Right.
You might have been taught how to survive. You might have been taught how to go through your day to day. But when you talk about things like punctuality, accountability, responsibility, he gave all of those things, and I'm forever grateful for that.
Yeah, that's dope. And so I think the trajectory where that comes from is the ability to survive. And then the opposite end of the spectrum is the ability to dominate at life, right? So
Yeah.
you can either survive or you can dominate. You can be punctual, you can be on time, you can be the hardest worker, you can be given a task, meet the standard, and do above the task. And I think that is what it takes really to be great. Like that is really a 1% mindset. Is like, we're not just coming in here to check the block. Like we come in here to stand out, be the best. So you play your college ball at the University of Alabama, Huntsville. Tell me what that experience was like, and then how did planning and preparation prepare you to play there, and then what is your most memorable experience from college?
So in terms of transitioning from like a Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is really a utopia as far as I'm concerned, in terms of just like racism, crime, like you're very sheltered from that. And going
Right.
somewhere like Huntsville, Alabama alone, that was the one thing I was not prepared for. I had a
It's
great
like in
experience.
your face, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I was not prepared for. All of the girls that we end up playing with in high school and stuff, we all grew up together, black, white. So we never were really necessarily exposed to that. And that dynamic, believe it or not, on the basketball court is actually a really big thing.
Mhm.
But as far as like the day to day, my day to day was great. I did not like my basketball coach because when you go from somebody like a Michael Burt, you would have to transition to another Michael Burt or somebody above that.
Mhm.
When you transition down, I was frustrated because I was just like, where's this guy's sense of urgency? Like, I need for you to be here. And he never was, and used to irritate me so much. And I never knew. I just thought I didn't like this coach. But that was really it. I had been conditioned to be a certain way. And now I'm around a person who like doesn't have any of that. So that's frustrating. Um, my biggest memory my biggest memory in college in terms of basketball actually has nothing to do with on the floor stuff.
Mm.
I is what you would call like a raw player. Like I had the talent, but I didn't necessarily have the couth to play, if you know what I mean. Like
Mm.
I'm one of those. I was the yeah, I was
Yeah, yeah,
a play.
yeah.
So when it was time for me, I wanted to become a Delta, but we had signed contracts for our, when you sign on to play, that we weren't able to join sororities.
Right.
So my assistant coach made sure I got through that process for sure. And she was just basically like at the end, like I hate to say this, Coach Central, I can say it now, but she used to lie for me and stuff like that
Yeah.
because she was like, the things that you lack are the things that I know that this organization will give to you.
Mhm.
Because my teammate, she's like, you remind me so much of my teammate. And when she became a Delta, it changed those things on the floor that she needed to brush up. It changed those because she became a little more polished. So like to have a coach to think that far outside of the box and really care about you enough to do that's the thing I remember the most.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I would tell you that I mean, just listening to your story, just I can just see the pieces of the puzzle being put together, and just it's just like slices of a pie, and just hey, we missing one more slice. Let's put it here, because I know where you are now, and it's just kind of it's not even kind of great. It's like awesome to hear that, and I think that's probably something that you probably pour back into your kids, but I'm definitely interested to hear your style of coach, especially going from again one of the uh greatest coaches in Tennessee history to some guy who just happened to get a good job. And it's like, again, hey, we got a guy that can survive, and then we got a guy who knows how to dominate. And that, I mean, that's life at the end of the day. And when you are used to a certain level of um discipline, when you're used to a certain level of uh I mean, honestly, it all comes down to dominance, but standard bearers, if you're used to a certain level of urgency, uh, nothing else will suffice, because you learned how to win
Yeah.
through those character abilities. And when that's taken away, and you, again, we talk about that piece of the pie, you know what slice goes where, and you
Yeah.
see it missing. It's just it's hard to go back on that. But I think, and again, in listening to your story and seeing somebody else's slices missing, and then someone feeling yours, and then someone giving you 90% of the pie. Um, so now, again, we talked about you being the assistant um, principal at Lee Southeast. Uh, you coach two teams, a men's team and a women's team, and I love watching the the highlights and the growth of your kids. Tell me a little bit about your teams and how this year went.
So, in terms of just like high school basketball, that was not something that I was interested in. I was done with basketball when it was over with, but kind of fell into my lap and ended up falling in love with it. Long story short, I coached at Lee High School for 13 years,
Mm,
14 years as an assistant.
yeah.
Never wanted to leave because it was really just like all of the kids who I serviced were kids who grew up just like I did. So to me, it was just like that what was filling me up. Um, our head coach made me transition out of being his assistant, quite nicely. Thank you, Coach Silas. Mainly because I feel like they thought at the time that I was head coach material. For me, it's like, uh, maybe not.
Right.
In the years that I was at Lee, I used Lee to start my AAU organization
Mm.
because in Alabama at the time, when we're talking about the late 2000s, um, girls basketball in the city was non-existent, and it was weird because there were some really great players. Butler High School, from I think, I might be wrong, but 1999 they were on the Cheerios box. They won the girls
Oh
state
wow.
championship in Alabama 4 years in a row. I ended up coaching one of the girls' kids. A lot of their kids played for me. Never had heard of that, and that's wild to me.
Yeah.
Um, Sherelle Hobbs and Renisha went to Auburn High School. They end up helping me. Well, Sherelle ended up helping me start I Breathe Hoops. They were big time players at Auburn University. Never heard, like, when you go into a city like that, I was like, those are things I should be hearing like out into the city.
Right.
But over the time it progressed, and being around Coach Bird and being around people in Middle Tennessee, the biggest things that I connected was AAU and how people were being successful on the high school.
The slices of the pie.
Yeah. So I was just like, hey, we have a feeder school. Let's get AAU in there. He gave me the opportunity to do that. So I literally just took all of our kids and put them on the AAU circuit so that they could play year round. Obviously, I had to follow rules. I want to make sure I say that for
Right.
anybody going
Got
and
you.
say, you know what I'm saying?
Got
So
you.
um, the great thing about it was that at the time we were intentional with our coaches that were only African American female coaches. So they
Mm,
were all coached by women who played college basketball, who happened to look just like them.
mm,
We only serviced kids for the most part who came from low socioeconomic statuses.
mm.
Um, and made sure that they were able to get on platforms, that they had the resources, because that's really what it is. That's the disconnect, is the resources part. It's like when I looked at it, I'm like, why are these girls not getting seen? Well, they don't have the resources to. Their parents can't get in a car every single weekend and travel around
Absolutely.
like that. So what it ended up doing, because I was at a high school, was it grew my AAU organization on its own. It wasn't necessarily anything I was doing special. It was just that connection to high school. And what that enabled me to do was, when I transitioned back to Tennessee, was to bring it here. And right now we're doing the same things. The only thing is we're really only servicing boys right now,
Mm,
but we started in Masonwood, which is off of Brick Church.
okay.
This particular area has 53% of the African American boys from that particular area end up in prison. And it's the
Wow.
highest percentage in the country, not in the state,
Right.
in the people. That's the
Wow.
community we serve. So we're going into year two. And what I can tell you is, um, having kids know you give a damn has a lot to do with their trajectory. Because when we met them, real raw, and I'm talking about, we're dealing with kids who have been exposed to drugs, kids who had been committing crimes, kids who were engaged in things that had they had some other outlet, I don't necessarily think it probably would have went that far.
Right.
And we fast forward a year now, and I look at them and the things that they talk about and the things that they're doing. It's like I can't even focus on the basketball stuff just because of the mental growth of when we first met them and now. And actually, um, Nashville more so reflects what I wanted to do in Huntsville,
Right.
in terms of giving platforms to kids who don't have the resources.
Right. No, that's amazing, right? So where you are now, what are the type of resources that you feel would help support your organization?
Money always helps, mainly because when you talk about AAU, it's a travel component. So anything that you do costs money. Tournaments cost money. Uniforms cost money. Everything costs money. Um, I've been fortunate enough, and I'm so thankful that I did play at Riverdale because as soon as I came back, and people knew that I was doing I Breathe Hoops, reached out on their own to help us. And I really appreciate that. So it's things like um, being able to be on teams that will get them on platforms.
Mhm.
Um, what I really want to do is instead of depending on somebody to do that for us, to go ahead and start platforms in the city that give the kids a chance to be seen the way that they need to be seen, even if they lack the resources. Um, I would also definitely say, like, academically, when I look at their ACT scores compared to kids who have, tutors, or they go to a school that offers ACT prep courses, their scores are dramatically different. So like having people come in who can service them in terms of things like ACT, and tutoring academically, that's what we're really looking at right now because you could be the greatest basketball player ever, but you got to have the other part too.
Right,
And
right.
big picture, basketball ends no matter how great you are at some point. So you have to have other characteristics that are going to allow you to monetize and be able to pay your bills and do those things like that.
No, absolutely. And I think basketball really, and you spoke it best, basketball is really the best language to translate to kids what life really looks like. And, you can at any point in time remove basketball because now basketball was just the bridge of the gap to the language. Now we can, show you what the inside of life look like. And then you start to see those transformations with the kids. And it's a beautiful thing. I think in that transition, you found your why. Do you think outside of servicing the kids, do you think your um purpose of serving the kids is the reason why you do what you do?
Oh, I know that 100%.
Yeah.
Um, as much as I talk about Coach Burt, there's like so many other people who were involved who don't necessarily get credit. I'm thinking about Ashley Newman's mama, Miss Arbadil, who I just saw in Walmart not too long ago. I hadn't seen her in like almost 20 years. She used to come pick me up and make sure I was on teams, and she used to make sure I got to practice because I played with her daughter and she kind of knew my situation. For years, she did that. Never asked for any money, never asked for any reimbursement, just did it out the kindness of her art. Corey Baird, who's the head coach at Lebanon, I sit and watched him, and he gave nuggets here and there. He doesn't even know any of this stuff. Like the little nuggets that these people gave or invested in us. Coach Coleman, Clifford Coleman, who
Mhm.
was part of the Nike flight, who I think just transitioned to another organization. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have known about AAU. He was just like, shoot, come play. Don't worry about no money. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
those little things like helped over time. And those people who were doing it out of the goodness of their heart or maybe play with their kids, those things actually stuck and sometimes were the things that got us over the hump. So it's like you have Coach Bird, but most people have all these other support systems.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Even Calicia's mom, Miss Karen, being able to walk to Calicia's house and be able to eat and be able to nap, and Miss Karen just always welcomed us with open arms. Like those things were very important just having support systems.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it takes a village, you know, really to raise a child and a grown up. Um, I think I'm the same way. We out here like Nipsey said, you know what I'm saying? Hey, you put it on the streets, I'm picking it up. You know what I'm saying? You drop a free game, I'm taking it. Yeah, I stole that from you. Um, but I feel like that's just that is the really the key to greatness, as being able to be able to rely on people as resources, especially as you go throughout your life. And even as a grown person, it goes from, you know, resourcing to networking. And then B, the ability to know that's how you grew up, and then be able to give that back to the community. Because, you know, if that's the key to my success, that's going to be the key to his success, her success, and everybody else around me. And I told Khaleesi, hey, I usually have a time limit, but when it gets good, I'm not stopping. So
Hey,
I'm telling you, that's what's happening right now.
is it you a preacher? Okay, I hear you.
Yeah. That's say, take your time, Pastor. I hear you playing that piano, but I'm gonna keep going. Right. So you brought up something that I'm not going to say I used to be passionate about. It was just one of my passions that I sat to the side and really for way too long. And so I really commend people like you and Khaleesi and other women who are really pushing to keep women's basketball alive and strong. Um, do you think, and it's one of the issues that I have with women's basketball right now is, and I don't want to call it an issue, but it is an issue. The ability to have coaches who understand the players better from and I'm trying to keep this politically correct, uh, from you look like me perspective.
I hear you.
Um, how important do you think that is for women's players? Because I see um, and it's tough for me because it's just like NFL, like the NBA, like how how are you qualified to tell me not only about this game but the game of life? You can't understand who I am. How can you tell me where I'm going?
That answer for me is really twofold. Um, I've never had an African American female coach in my life, ever. It's either been a white man or a white woman. Um, I was fortunate to have coaches who wanted to understand
Mhm.
the disconnects, the cultural disconnects, but I've been around people and been coached by people who didn't care about that. Let me say this. So I'm 37. So when I'm in high school, what people got to understand is like women's basketball is just now starting to be an international and national phenomenon. Like the WNBA comes out in what 1997, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
So that's 3 years before I get into high school. Okay, so you could imagine going into that where you're not seeing forget what people look like you. You're not even seeing women's basketball.
Right, the future, right,
Yeah,
outside of these 4 years.
right.
Mhm.
Um, but what happened is most of the players during that time who were great and who were pushing and advocating and being ambassadors for the game happened to look like me. And I'm talking about people like Shamiqua Holdsclaw, Tamika Catchings, Candace Parker. Like these are all the people that we got the chance to see.
Right,
And just by spontaneous combustion, time has made it to where women's basketball is a huge thing.
it's a big
And
deal.
what I will say as a coach, to see people like Don Staley, um, Alex Simmons, who played at Chevyville High School, who we played against in high school,
That's so
who's at
dope.
Gardner Webb right now. Watching those women be successful in a game that I know people equate black coaches to being motivators
Right.
and being able to push kids, but as terms of like x's and o's, graduation rates, you don't hear that. But when I look at those women, they're doing all of it. They are. So what it helps me be is like uh optimistic that um to be taken serious in this industry, because it's not always been like that. Um, what I also will say too is just coaching girls and boys is a little bit different.
Oh yeah, for sure, no question. I've done both of them.
Yeah.
Um, it's different. I would like to hear your perspective of that. I personally uh enjoy coaching. I enjoy coaching women more because there's more that comes out of my mouth that gets done for
Yeah.
real. And and men, you just have to be able to put them in the right positions to succeed. You can teach them. It's going to take a little bit longer, but first you have to set them up just to be in the right position to succeed, because at the end of the day, regardless of what you said, they're going to make it happen. Right?
Hmm.
Women, you can really get down to the details, and I think that is coaching. Your
So
perspective.
I say all that because, like, with girls who I could really pour into, when I look back at my coaching career, were girls who basketball was not a hobby for them. Basketball was not a hobby for me. Basketball was a platform to stop being poor as hell, to be
Hmm.
honest, and to get out of situations that I couldn't control being in, but I could control getting out of it.
Right.
And so my sense of urgency in the beginning of my career to kids was just like, when I look back, could have been completely overwhelming
Hmm.
for sure.
Hmm.
Girls, like I've been told this, girls have to feel good to play good and boys have to play good to feel good, and that is the complete truth. Like
I believe
there-
that.
there's so much prep with girls emotionally to get them ready to play. Now they gonna retain everything you say, and they're gonna go out and they're gonna do it exactly how you say it. And for me, therein lies the problem, because I need you to think on your own.
Yeah.
I don't need you to regurgitate what I just told you. I need you to take that and see what you see it.
Oh, that's a
So
good perspective. I'm taking notes too.
for me, I think gender has a lot to do with it. Like, guys generally do like coaching girls because they're not gonna give a man pushback, because that's what I'm assuming, we're naturally engineered to take direction from a man, right?
Right.
So when you bring a woman into the mix, there's gonna be a level of contention.
Oh
And
yeah.
I had that too, because in my mind, like when I had female coaches, my whole thing is, girl, can you handle me?
Oh, I
And if you
love
couldn't
that.
handle it, like, I'm not gonna listen to you. Now, immature to have that, but that's what
Right.
I had. So like my college coach, who I told you was very supportive of me being a Delta, the first day got with me like, you're not as good as what you think you are, Mosheda.
Oh,
And what she don't know is it didn't hurt my feelings. I was like, bet,
I'm about to show you.
you're a real one. I'm gonna listen to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Boys, the reason I like coaching boys way more than girls. And truth be told, I will never coach girls again if I don't have an opportunity to. I would
Right.
much prefer,
Right.
because how boys respond to women, y'all, it's the same way girls respond to
Yeah.
men.
Absolutely.
So if first of all, boys, if they know you know what you're talking about, they're gonna automatically listen to you. So the proving like I'm a real basketball person took like a week.
Right.
Once they knew like, okay, she a real basketball person, had them hooked. Boys, the only thing that's difficult is they're way more emotional than I
Oh
anticipated.
yeah. Oh yeah.
um, and to go back to why it's important to have somebody look like you. Why girls listen to men like you is because a lot of the kids we service didn't have dads. So
Mm,
when you have a man who you perceive to be a good man, he's giving you what you need as a female from a father perspective,
mm-hmm.
and he's successful, what you deem as successful, you're gonna listen to that all day because that's a piece you miss.
Mm,
With the boys that I have, they have single mothers, but they don't look at me like their mom. They look at me like their auntie. So the things that they have difficulty with communicating with their mom, they gonna come to me because I'm gonna give them the real, but I'm also gonna give them sort of that motherly, like, look,
right.
you ain't listening to your mama, but your mama is actually right now. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So it's like, I think it just depends on like what kids respond to you in. For me, it's boys. For me, it's high school. For me, it's travel ball.
I love it. I love it. I love your perspective. I believe it or not, in the last 5 minutes, you changed my mind on a lot of things. Uh, I do thoroughly enjoy, especially when I coach boys. I coach with a system that is a little bit more like 5 out free game type of play, just because I know you are already in a position. I just need you to play really good defense, and then we're gonna run the ball up the court. And then if they
Yep.
happen to stop us at half court, y'all just run 5 out, get an open shot, go. Like I could do that with girls. I know I can do that. I just have to give them all of the details.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't. I should be able to build them to make those same decisions.
But the good thing is, if you look at the evolution of the game right now, girls are starting to be wired that way. When I think about the Angel Reese's and
Yeah, I
Flage,
love Reese. She's a dog.
these are kids when like some of these kids we've watched on social media and watched on ESPN since they were in high school. Um, when I look at their decision making and I look at like their basketball IQ, the game is evolving where girls are already starting to be engineered to do that, not necessarily naturally, but because now they're starting earlier with sports.
Hmm.
They're being taken serious.
Hmm.
So to me, there's an evolution. Like me and Calicia, we're like of the old guard kind of still.
Right.
These kids, they already come with business savvy. They already come with how they want to attack it. What I can say, and this is just a me thing, is the basketball IQ part is not always up to par. But in the defense of that, if I was a college player at this time and I had the opportunities that they have with like the NIL or shoot, you don't even need anybody to promote you. You should
At
promote
all.
the platform. I don't know if I necessarily would all the way be engaged with studying the game because that's not the only thing that you need at this point.
Right. And then like really, how do you tell a 18-year-old kid $45,000 really isn't that much money? That's the
Right.
most money he's ever had in his life. It's
Yeah.
more than his mom makes, So how can you change his mind on that? It's a new world. It's a
Yeah.
new world that we're in, you know. So it's just really the coaches now are fighting through some things. And then the kids have social media and all these other platforms to work with and learn from. So the times have changed. It's just really keeping up with it. It is definitely, I wouldn't even say difficult, but it's just really us old fogies gotta keep up with the pace.
I think the biggest thing is like showing them how to utilize their platforms. Like
Mm.
if you're gonna be on social media all day and you have a talent, then to me, we need to be teaching them like, all right, how do you use the social media platforms to promote your brand? Because at this point, if you're not talking to kids about being a brand when they're in high school, you already losing and already behind because that's virtually what you are. Social media has
Absolutely.
made everybody a brand.
Yep. And you know me, I like to call myself the free game king. And I would say, with you saying that, I would say, in the 10-mile radius of where you are, reach out to some people and see if they actually do that. Hey, do you teach kids how to brand themselves as athletes? If not, that is a program that you can then build yourself and then use that as a resource for your program. Hey, your kids come here, they learn XYZ. They learn how to talk to people. They learn how to interview. They learn how to, market themselves for an NIL. They learn what's a good NIL deal. They know how to structure. This is a program easily you can build. And a lot of times it's younger people that know these things.
Yep.
Somebody who just graduated 22, 23, just got out of college, had an NIL deal, jacked it up, but they know what it looks like. Hey,
Right.
now that you have a college degree, go ahead, flip that, turn that to a business, and now you have a resource for your program.
What I will say that we do too is like all of the coaches that I have are my former players. It's
Oh,
like,
so you got it.
yeah, because to me, like, first of all, to have people in your program who've been coached by you before and already know your expectations, I feel like it pushes your program a little bit further because you don't have to worry about is this person gonna be loyal to me or nothing. That's already there.
Right.
The second thing is I had a really hard time. I came out of college during the Great Recession.
Mhm.
So like I was fortunate. I'm a teacher, so once it was over with, I was able to get a job. one of the things I hate is when these kids do all that work in college and they get out of that, and it's that dead period where they're trying to figure out, like, how am I gonna pay my bills? Do I want to do something I'm passionate about? And so for me, being in a position where I'm admin at school and also a basketball coach, when they leave and they tell me they need help, come coach.
Yeah.
You ain't even gotta like it. This is more so that when you figure out what you are gonna trade your time for, that you are able to monetarily be able to take care of yourself.
Mm.
And so, like, it's a beautiful thing because you meet these kids when they're like in fifth and sixth grade, and then you're having whole like our well, she's gonna be the head girl. She's gonna be announced as the head girls coach at Lee Southeast later on
Nice.
in the school year, but she played at Fisk. She played for me at Lee. Her name is Maya Langham. Um, she's an incredible coach. Like, and she came to practice one day and was like, "What y'all over here doing?" And I said, "You want to coach?" And so what it's done is it's led her to getting a job, which is probably going to it's going to free up her time to do what she's passionate about without having to worry about money
Right.
or
Right.
benefit or anything like that. So for me, um, Coach Burt definitely taught us that, to leave a legacy. So to me, I don't care what anybody thinks about me as a coach at all in any capacity. My legacy is just like the kids who are able to do what they want to do, and trade their time for something they're passionate about instead of just a paycheck.
No, that is so dope. That is so dope. I would say, this just from my perspective and my knowledge of everything that you've done up to this point. I think you solidified as far as your legacy, but don't let me stop you. I was talking to Calicia about something earlier. She always complained that, hey, you never really like invite us to like all of these like milestones in your career. And I came to the perspective today because today was my master sergeant promotion ceremony.
I
And
saw. Congratulations.
thank you. I appreciate it. And the issue was I went back in my mind thinking, why wasn't I ready to celebrate? And I had to tell her because I already see the future, right? So I'm looking 10 years ahead of, and I'm just checking blocks on things that's supposed to happen in order for me to get where I'm going. And y'all want me to celebrate like stopped and this was it. Like y'all celebrate the wrong thing. I where I need to be, right? That's what I want y'all to celebrate. So when you start asking me, it's like, hey, I'm about to go wash my car. You like, hey, I just poured the water in a bucket. Let's celebrate. Like the car didn't get washed yet. Like, why are we celebrating? So I think I know where you at because your grind is like it's impeccable, man. Like it's impeccable. I like the way you switch it up. I like how you build your teams. Before we get out of here, because my brain gets scattered sometimes. Um, and I know we're really short on time at this point. What does the summer look like for you this year?
Well, we started last week. We had our first tournament, so we're gonna
Oh,
get
nice.
the show on the road. So we will be in Bowling Green, we'll be in Alabama, we'll be in Memphis, Gatlinburg, Pensacola, Cincinnati. That's where we're taking the kids. And
Nice.
really, to be honest, the reason is it don't have anything to do with basketball. It's because they need to see this world outside of Nashville so that they can start thinking a little bit bigger. Um, Leaving the city is what made me start thinking about other things outside of Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I would rather them be able to have those moments because some of these kids, regardless of what you pour into them, they might not have the opportunity for these experiences ever again. So for me, it's like we going to play, but for me, it's so y'all can really see like, dang, I could do this, I could live like that. That's really why we taking the show on the road like that.
I love it. I love it. That's kind of how I grew up. I'm gonna say how I grew up, but about 14, 15, the only place I really been was South Carolina, where my family is originally from. And that was like it. And then when I turned 18, I had the opportunity to coach a AAU program, and we started traveling, and I started seeing the world, and I started seeing life a whole lot different. I wish I would have done it earlier, but for those kids that we had, Oh man, one of them, it's crazy because one of those kids is my investment coach, right? And so I'm the finance guy and I have an investment coach. He's one of the kids that I coach, but he goes around the world, no kidding. Um, and that is just what that does for kids. Like it makes see a completely different part of life. And I commend you for that. Like, that's awesome.
I wanted to say this. I'd be remiss if I didn't say it. When you talk about celebrating your accomplishments, I very much so was like that. First of all, I'm not a person who likes the spotlight. I like to be the day. You know what I'm saying? I'm like Slim to somebody baby. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
Exactly.
really pushing the button, but I don't want you to know that. Like
Right.
I don't get filled up out of that. I honestly am a lot of times embarrassed when people ask me about accolades and stuff because I don't operate in that.
Yeah,
But
but you got a whole lot. I'll
but
leave it alone. I'll leave it alone.
but there's two things. Coach Christopher Blandon, who is one of the best coaches in the state of Alabama, he just got a job. He just got a job at the cybersecurity school as the first boys head coach.
Nice.
Congratulations, Chris.
Nice.
He told me this before I left because he asked me to write a piece about myself to give to him for a program we were doing.
Mhm.
And mine was like a paragraph because I was just like, shoot,
This is what I do. I do
I'm
it
a
really
teacher, I'm
good.
a coach, boom, there you go. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, he sent it back and he was like, oh, absolutely, I'm not going to accept any what you just gave. And he basically was like, when you have the opportunity to present your own self to people, you have to present yourself to them, not because you want them to necessarily know what your accolades are, but to make sure that they understand that you're serious about your craft. And so I never thought about it in those
Ooh.
terms. And the second thing is that um, it's hard to give yourself credit, but like I've heard about you for years, obviously, but I've just really started talking to you in the last 6 months. And in 6 months of just following you on social media, just social media alone, not any of our conversations or anything, I'm like, dang, I should have been hip to some of this stuff. And like you do have to give yourself credit because you're touching people who are not even around you every day. Like I'm way in Tennessee and where y'all at? DC?
Yeah, we in DC.
Yeah, like
Go going.
yeah, I see. I feel like it's important to do that, especially as a person of color, because a lot of things that we are doing on this scale and with these platforms, other people are doing, except they are promoting themselves and they are getting to places that I feel like we don't get to because we don't want to toot our own horns.
Ooh,
Sometimes you got to
that's
be your
good.
biggest cheerleader because somebody else is not going to do that for you. I'm not going to go on social media and say I'm the greatest or anything like that. However, I am going to give you a glimpse into what it is that I'm doing so that you know that I'm serious about you know what
Oh
I'm
my
saying?
God. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
also want you to see that like I have a platform and I want you to know that I know how to utilize it. So like you have to shout yourself out. Like the things that you're doing, even with this podcast. I get your emails every day with them little nuggets.
Yeah.
Those are things that like are super important and really, I mean, you don't know. I send those nuggets to our players every day.
I
Like when I
love
get
it.
those emails, I send them to them because these are things that you're not learning about every single day. So you got to toot your own horn. You really do. And the last thing is this too. Um, taught me that we live so much in the activity traps of life that we are not celebrating the things that are most important. So yes, as much as I grind and as much as I think about things, like I have limits at this point, limits and boundaries that I never possessed before,
Right.
because now I'm a wife, I'm a mom, um, and I'm not going to sacrifice any of those things for that because these things will leave. But my family is what's going to sustain me when things get bad. So like enjoy what you're doing. Like don't get
Yes.
into all the activities and then don't enjoy the fruits of the labor.
I'm trying, but I'm trying. It's like, I put the information out there and I want people to have it. And like I say, I try to be the free game king. But I'm trying to tell y'all, wait, there's more. Oh, there's more. Now I love it because this is kind of building a base. And then once everybody sees the base and they understand the base, they follow base. I've been preaching the same couple of things, just a few different ways. But when you see the base and say, all right, now that I have everybody that has that base and y'all follow me, all right, let's go to level 2. Right. Because I know what level 3 is, what makes me so excited. So when everybody's like, hey, I love the stuff that you're doing. And I'm like, okay, you gonna love level 2 then. So I'm trying.
You have an aspect that you don't even see. And just first of all, y'all got a basketball team over there, baby. But
we deep.
deep, y'all got subs and everything. But to see a Black family, a big Black family, have parents who are in corporate America, but are also entrepreneurs who also pour into their kids and also take the knowledge they have and share into the world. That's what we all need to be doing. That's what we all need to be looking at. So, like, I don't look at you just as Robert Simmons. I look at y'all like a businessman.
Yes.
Businessman.
I love it. Thank you. I'm so humbled by that because it's just, I just love to put my head down and grind. And of course I love to put greatness on the platform, man. So I am humbled by that. I told you we be getting it in. We gonna have to do a part 2.
And we can.
Oh yeah. I gotta get with my marketing exec and let her know, hey, we went over time, but we be all right though. We'll just charge it to the game.
Yeah. and I'm available, you know what I'm saying? Because these are conversations I feel like that are fruitful and need to be had. Really, I'm glad that you have this platform.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me on it. I look forward to you coming back or returning. I'm gonna get with you offline because I think there may be some resources that you need, or I'm willing to do the footwork on some things that I know I owe you some things, but now I don't see what happened. I owe you some things. I just say it that way. We'll get offline and I'll shoot you a text after this. And I already chased down a couple of things for you. And I'm gonna see where we at with that. But thank you so much for joining me. This was one of my favorite conversations. And that's because I don't want to shush anybody, but this is one of my favorite conversations. And man, I look forward to it again. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And on this show, we always say winners win. And when you win, we win. So thank you for being a winner.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining the podcast. And remember, change your mind, change your money, change your life. We out.